Hey guys, I wanted to talk about a question I got over Instagram. You know, I've talked in depth about what it was like adopting Aura, but I have not talked about what it was really like when we got Esper. And it's kind of interesting because Esper was the first dog I had in my adult life, like the first dog that's mine. You know, I grew up with dogs. My parents had God knows how many Borzois and Whippets and all this stuff. But the first dog that I had as my own, as the caretaker of it, is Esper. So my girlfriend at the time, now wife, same person. It's nice. She's right back there. We wanted to get we wanted to get a Borzoi. We had our hearts set on it. And we realized right from the start that was going to be kind of difficult. We looked through rescues, but we didn't want to do something. We wanted a puppy. We wanted a female dog. We wanted a dog that was a little smaller. You know, we had some parameters, and it was very difficult to find an adoption. We looked and looked and looked for years. And so in a way, we had given up on adopting a dog, and we hadn't really even considered purchasing one at the time. We were just kind of in limbo. We didn't know what we were doing. So my wife and I were actually in Hawaii. Her grandmother had some extra timeshare time, and we get this email through a friend of a friend. This guy named Doug said, there's a litter in New Mexico that they're not selling. They're actually giving them away. They're going to be adoptions. There are 4 puppies left, 2 girls and 2 boys, 1 gray, 1 white of each. And so at the time, Doug was like, I'm really interested in the young white puppy, which would be Esper. So we're thinking, okay, great. We're definitely interested. We'll take any of them. That's fine. We had a preference on the female, but if that doesn't work out, that's fine. So all through Hawaii, we're kind of like scrambling. We're asking our roommates if it's going to be okay. We're asking the landlord. He's not getting back to us. And so we knew that we were going to have to do all this stuff in a micro minute because we had to go to New Mexico when we got back from Hawaii and drive from Arizona to New Mexico to pick this dog up. So night before we're supposed to leave, we get the okay from our landlord. We literally just pack the car up and drive out to New Mexico. And as we're driving out there, we're realizing, like, okay, what is all the stuff that we need? And this is the kind of thing that you don't really think about. When you bring a second dog into your home, you have the infrastructure. You have the bowls. You have the rugs, the mats. You understand how to allocate time. You get what it takes to have a dog and what is required of you to have a dog and what the differences of actually owning them is. But having that thing from the first time is a little different. You're kind of building this structure. So we had a long time. It was a 16-hour drive. Now, we found out as we pull up to this place to pick up the dog that when Doug and his wife came up, his wife fell in love with the gray puppy. And we found out that we were going to be getting the white one, which essentially that we found out we were going to be going to get Esper. Yes, thank you. And the night before, my parents had said, okay, get one of the males too, because they wanted one. So we actually left there with 2 puppies, Vladimir and Esper. Now, I have never told this story to anybody, pretty much anybody. Maybe 3 or 4 people in the world know the story, and I'm going to expose it now because it's been 6 years, and I'm comfortable doing that. Now, taking Esper and Vlad in the back of the car was in itself an adventure. These dogs had no training. The lady who was giving them up for adoption, I wouldn't say lied. She very misled us about what these dogs were capable and how they were trained. She said that they were leash trained. They were not. She said that, you know, all of these things. These are unsocialized, feral Borzois. And so they're not feral. Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe that was a little too far. So we get into the car, and Vlad and Esper are packed in the back in blankets in this beautiful little nest we built her and him. In about 5 minutes, Vlad stands up and takes a huge dump in the back of the car. Esper, do you remember this, sweetie pie? She's like, nah. And we're thinking, oh, okay, here we go. We have a 16-hour trip. It smells like dog poop in the car already. And we look for a place to pull over because we wanted to take care of this and give the dogs the option to go to the bathroom. Mind you, we have been told that these dogs can walk on leashes. Now, we find a nice little place to pull over. It's a truck stop kind of area, big open dirt area, and we're thinking, okay, this is perfect. We'll get out, we'll walk them. It becomes immediately apparent that neither one of these dogs knew what a leash was, knew what a collar was, the second we took them out of the car. And the reason why I am so adamant that somebody with a sight hound has a Martingale collar is because of this moment. I look down, Esper just kind of twists her head and pops out of the collar. Her brother sees her do that and does the same thing. So now we're on the side of the freeway, essentially, with two loose Borzois. This is a very tough time for me. Luckily, I remembered just basic reading. You never chase a dog if you want to catch them. If you want to catch a dog, you just go down to the ground and you let them come to you. So Vlad took off running, got about 20 yards and realized he was nowhere near or anywhere near what he understood is his reality and stopped, luckily. I collapsed and he came back to me. Esper was terrified of Christine and I yelling because at the first we were yelling, and she just pancaked on the road. So we were able to gather up our loose feral Borzois and bring them back into the car. That is arguably one of the most stressed out moments of my life. And I white-knuckle drove to a PetSmart in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico, or a feed and go, yeah, like a feed stop in the middle of nowhere, and bought 2 dog harnesses. Now, I used the dog harnesses maybe once because I realized that you need a Martingale collar. And this is another thing we thought we had on the dogs. The lady said, oh, yeah, they have Martingale collars. It's totally fine. And they did not. So use the harness to get the dogs in the house once I finally arrived in Arizona. And then we got them the proper collars. So I cannot stress enough. And I've shown good examples of collars in previous videos, but you have to have a collar. So we dropped Vlad off at my parents' house. My parents at the time had 3 other dogs. 2 of them are Borzois, so they integrated very nicely. He just fell into the pack, and then we ended up driving Esper out to LA with us, and the learning process began. Esper was very afraid of everything. It's totally different than Aura. Aura is the most curious, most unafraid dog I've ever met. She is so acclimated and socialized. She knows everything. She just wants to be curious about everything. Esper, on the other hand, is not. She was afraid of everything. She's afraid of stairs. She's afraid of glass. She's afraid of walking on tile. She's afraid on literally everything. So it was a very different dog experience. Getting a dog to be confident is harder than a confident dog telling them to be polite. I found that experience to be very, very true. So first few months with Esper was a lot of training. We took her to puppy classes. We made sure that she understands her basic manners and her basic tricks. And then she slowly integrated. There's a lot of trust issues. She's a little older than Aura, so she didn't know who we were. She didn't have a lot of people skills. She didn't know what cars were, bikes were, skateboards were. I mean, she was lambasted with new things. Left and right, day by day, and this is Los Angeles too. So it was, she was presented with a lot. It took a lot of patience. Every day I would work on stairs. We'd go upstairs, downstairs at this Target near my house, and she hated it. We would, desensitize her with bikes. We'd ride bikes near her and make sure that she understood that it was okay. She'd go in and out of a car. I would take trips for no reason around the block just to get her used to the car. So if you're getting an adopted dog, be prepared that there are certain quirks that are going to come with doing that. And each dog is different, and they have their own personalities, and how they deal with that is going to be something you're going to have to deal with as well. as you can tell, Esper turned into a fantastic dog. She's arguably the most polite, most well acclimated, most friendly dog ever. You know, she still has her weird little quirks. You know, if there's like there is this large cow statue on the sidewalk out here that she still can't stand. I mean, she'll put up with it, but when she was a puppy, my God, she wanted to cross the street. She was so terrified of this gigantic cow, this like fake. Didn't understand what between fake and real. We had this one doll too we found in our garage when our neighbor moved out that she just was so terrified of. And we had one bad experience too. There was a real jerk skateboarder that rode around her when she was just a puppy, and she ended up collapsing on the ground and pooping on herself. It was a really bad experience. Look at Esper's face. She's like, I can't believe you're telling these things. So yeah, I really appreciate this question. I haven't thought about that experience in a while. And a lot of life things changed, and you realize very early on that this is a great responsibility, but what comes with it is such incredible joy. And being a parent of an adopted dog, in a lot of ways, you have more responsibility because you don't get the tender months and weeks of you know, when the puppy is willing to learn. You don't have the advantage of that, so you have to negotiate. It's a negotiating trip. So I really appreciate the question, and keep them coming. Hopefully the noise wasn't too bad throughout this video. Thank you. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.